Hi, so I'm back. I have to wait a few seconds always because it always cuts off when it gets started. So welcome to Now TV, and I am Just In YouTube channel. I am Just In. So I have a confession to make. I think I did try to mention it a little bit briefly, but when I moved in here, the Bloom Group they invested in stuff for people. So who, if you need stuff, you can have stuff when you have nothing, and so they gave pots and pans and things. And I have a box of unopened dishes that are brand new. Not really my style. It's all flowery and pinky and stuff. And I think it's a pot of actual brand new pots and pans and things, still in the box, stuffed away in the closet. But I have plans for all the new stuff that I bought for my houseboat plans, which after 3 years of being here, I thought I would have transitioned into, but I'm always running into problems. There's always issues. I'm always spending more money than I should on other things that I shouldn't have to be spending on by now or needing to spend money on. There should have been income coming in, savings coming in. I should have more popularity, more what do you call it, marketing and publicity in everything that has been accomplished in all the work I've done. Because I'm a finished writer, right? At the end of the day, I have a lot of stuff that I have finished that is done that is now ready. Anyways, I've also won the Downtown East Side Small Arts Grant, and that money actually needs to go to certain things when you actually get it. And then there's holidays and my family meaning so much to me that I spend on them. And last year we went to Seattle, and so just nothing ever left over for me. There's never time for me. So I saved all of that stuff because I wanted to use it for when I got out of here. Even if it was to buy a piece of property somewhere like in Washington State, which I love, because it's so much cheaper on that side. You can still buy small portions or large portions of land at really reasonable prices near the mountains, even Mount Vernon, old cabins, cottages, properties, trailer parks where you have mobile units, not just actual places that are trailers like they've had. Just prefabbed houses that are movable, so they call them mobiles now, that look like exactly like real houses with fireplaces and 2 floors in it. So my goal was to get something established on that side, and then be able to have time away over there, and build up more notoriety and maybe find people to help with the work in my writing. So I just wanted to go out and find either a lid for the pot or a new pot, or fry pan or come home or something. But the weather is so bad with all the rain, I'm going crazy. I don't want to walk around with an umbrella over my head all of the time in Vancouver. And I just bought new shoes. And so the last 2 times I got stuck out in the rain in the new shoes that are not meant for Vancouver rain. And so I start losing my mind. And then today I had to throw on my hoodie, my Snoopy hoodie, because it's still trickling and drizzling again, and I'm like so done with it, which is why I'm trying to find places to go and escape to during the rain season in Vancouver, because we get rain instead of snow, but not this much rain. The earth is melting and it's not normal. So I need to find a way to escape. Like literally, if I hadn't had this car problem stuff with the new to me car, I could have taken a vacation on a cruise ship, gone to a hot country or something. So I'm flabbered, like just flustered on everything that just keeps getting in my way. I just had a phone call from the BCAA service center where my new to me car is, where they put in $2,700 worth of parts that didn't actually need to be put in the car, that should have been avoided from being put in the car because they should have practiced preventative measures when the car had been taken to them in the first place. And the advertisement on the website was upheld, where they would find and fix the problem. And if they don't, they would find and fix it on them. So when I took the car in the first time, first of all, I've never owned a Volvo. Second of all, I'm not a mechanic. So when I took the car in on the tow, first time I knew nothing about what was wrong with it. The engine light went off and I was basically driving on like nothing. The whole thing shut off. It was black, but the car was still moving forward in emergency state. And I said to the guy at the front counter, find everything, right? Find it and fix it, right? Let me know what it is. Let's work this out. And then I told him that I bought the car for $2,000. And I said that it could be a transmission issue. It could be some sort of leak, transmission fluid leak, some other part. There was a leak that was of the radiator, essentially, in the end, which I did not know. But I didn't know what it could be, condensation or what condensation. And I mentioned all this stuff. When I bought the car, I told the guy that if it's just the transmission problem, if that's what it turns out to be and it's affordable, I'll fix it, right? Because Volvos are worth a certain amount of investment. So if I had bought it for $2,000, paid $500 for the taxes, bought the insurance and plates, and then paid $2,700 to fix the car, in total the car would still be worth, with all of the upgrades and the receipts, what the resale value would be for this car, which would be an investment, and that would be fine. But that's not what happened. This guy puts in a brand new battery, checks all these gadgets and things on the computer to make sure the battery is hooked up to all the things that it's supposed to be, tells me that the batteries was the wrong battery. Some person had put in some random battery that they bought at a store, which computerized cars like Volvos like that can't have. They have to have specific batteries. And then he said that the car was fine and everything was fixed. And I asked him repeatedly, are you sure? Is the transmission working? Is my car driving in automatic? Did you take it out and drive it around the block multiple times to check it to make sure that everything is fine? Did you find the leak? Did you fix it? Was it the transmission seal? I went through that on the phone in the conversation before I went to pick up the car. And he kept reassuring me that the car was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, that it's in good working order and I could come and get it. Now, if I had known there was still a transmission problem and all he did was fix one problem, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and waiting for further instructions on what to do for part 2 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stuff, I would never have moved the car, right? Now, they have all this modern technology, all these computerized equipments. Today's mechanics have the ability to make assessments when they hook cars up, for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, where they can go from diagnostics of 1 to 7 when they have the car up on the holsters right away in everything they know to look for, everything they've been told to look for, everything they have the common sense and the knowledge and experience to look for, to skip from 1 to 7 and know right away that everything from 2 to 6 is not worth your time or money on. Don't do it. Trade the car in, get a better car, and save yourself a lot of money. And he didn't want to take on the accountability for that or honor what the website said about their mistake and fixing this stuff when they miss that part of the deal in their services. Now, he could be the nicest guy in the world, but that doesn't mean he's good enough as a mechanic to be working for BCAA, and it's hurting the BCAA standard in business. So I said to him that if people aren't qualified enough, they shouldn't be working there, and that responsibility doesn't fall on the person who brought the car in, who was very clear at the counter with the person about what needs to be looked for, what we need to resolve and to reassure me about, and know that it's done, and discuss during these steps in making sure it's safe to drive away. Now, when I left, I drove it on the highway back to Vancouver, thinking the car was fine because I had been reassured multiple times that there was nothing else wrong with the car. So I drove it in auto, and then I got scared to drive it in auto anyway, and I put it back into standard, and it drove fine all the way back in to the city, but then it started wonky after I got it back into the city a few days because there's mountains here and hills. And then when I was driving customers who were supposed to go to Whistler, I had to stop on a hill, and you know how hard it is to get started up again when you're in standard on a hill, no matter what you're driving, at a stop sign, and the engine cooling fan blew. Now, the engine cooling fan wasn't broken, and it wasn't the problem when the car was there the first time, when he reassured me that there was nothing else wrong with the car and that I could come and get the car, and that he had checked the fluids and put in new fluids, and that everything was fine. So he then asks me if I want to order parts to fix the engine cooling fan have to come from California for the Volvo. And I kept asking, is it maybe the transmission? Can you check to see if it's the transmission? Check for the leak, the transmission seal, and the leak that I was seeing happen, which I was worried might be connected to that problem. And he kept reassuring me that that wasn't the problem, and that the engine cooling fan had been what had blown this time around when I went back with it. And he was trying to make out like the engine cooling fan was always the problem around the battery problem, like the engine cooling fan was already broken and that I was driving the car with a new battery with a transmission. That's fine with an engine cooling fan that wasn't working. But the engine cooling fan, if it was broken, the car wouldn't work. Engine cooling fans, if they're not working properly, the engine doesn't work. It shuts down. It doesn't operate properly. You can't drive cars anywhere, especially the new ones that all need to be computerized. So the engine cooling fan was fine when I drove it, left the first time. And now it's a $2,700 bill because of the work he did with the radiator leak, which is what the problem turned out to be. It wasn't a transmission leak problem or seal problem. It was the radiator leak problem. And then the part for the Volvo that he ordered from California, which took over a month to arrive and put in. And so I said, you have the original parts. And I said, can you put the original parts back in the car? Because now that you found that it's the transmission and you want me to spend $5,000 or $6,000 on a transmission for a car that cost me $2,000 to buy, that's 20 years old, we're done having the conversation, right? You didn't do your job in the 1 to 7 process of the intake of the vehicle and finding and fixing, or at least listing the problems and then fixing problem number 1 and then asking if I wanted problem number 2 fixed. After dealing with problem number 1, which if it was just the battery, I could then drive the car to a dealer, trade it in, put in some more money, get a nicer car that's a Volvo with no problems, and take the new battery and put the new battery in that car and drive away, and we're good to go. So I said, I'm not spending the $2,700 on parts that should never have been replaced, that were not my fault. The engine cooling fan blew because he had reassured me the car was safe to drive away the first time when he fixed just the battery, and didn't want to own up to the fact that I had said, please fix everything or find everything at least and let me know what everything is, and then decide whether or not it's a feasible thing. If I had known that the transmission was a problem and it wasn't fixable within the budget I was willing to spend, I would have said no, draw the line, and I never would have ordered any more parts or did any more work on this $2,000 car. Right? Obviously, it's not worth it. And so he's just like, oh, well, you don't want to hear anything from my side, so I'm just going to pass it on to the head office. And he had the nerve to try to accuse me of trying to get a deal, a free break or something. But I'm a Christian. I'm an honest person. I don't lie. I have no reason to lie. And everything that went on from the time I was in there at the front counter and what I said in person when I was making a list of what was wrong with the symptoms of the car, and I didn't know what any of that might have amounted to. I didn't know nothing about batteries or whatever, was the truth. He was trying to make out like I had said to fix the battery. I didn't know the problem was the battery when I brought the car in. The engine shut off, the light shut off. It was just moving in black like emergency power. I knew nothing. It could have been anything. I'm not a mechanic. I now know more about Volvos and cars than I ever did before I went in there. I now know enough to know what to tell a mechanic to look for specifically on a checklist of 1 to 7, or when I'm shopping for cars, so that this never happens to me again. But he doesn't want to own up to any part of the stuff that could have prevented the situation we're in now with the $2,700 of work done on it that was completely avoidable because the engine cooling fan didn't have to be blown at all, right? So if the problem had been the transmission, the car never would have been driven back from that service center to Vancouver, where the engine cooling fan blew and where my back windshield got smashed. And I had to end up replacing it using my new insurance policy and pay $300 for a back windshield out of that policy for something I didn't do to myself that I'm not guilty of. So I'm just so done. The guy that sold me the car was new to the country and had this to say about why he didn't go any further. He said, I don't know who to trust. And at that point, I didn't know what to think because I've always had good experiences with BCAA and I like shopping at Canadian Tire. However, over the years, I have seen a massive decline in mechanics and trusting people and what is good and people that are actually honest and qualified. And so now, after this experience, I am aware that he was right, that you just don't know who to trust anymore today. So I have to now figure out how to salvage what's been done that wasn't warranted and was avoidable with the situation of a car that literally can't be driven in high gears. It moves in low gears, but that doesn't help me fix the situation with what's already been spent and the receipts I have, and that I still need a car that works in the end. And of course, it needs to be another Volvo. So I'm glad I went out for my walk, but it's ruined my ability to shop for pots and stuff because I'm just so done with spending. Right? That money could have been a cruise ship, a real vacation out of the country, a trip back down to Washington State or Portland or California. And I could have bought a houseboat or a liveaboard for the headache I've gone through with this Volvo and trying to treat myself. But $5,000 to $10,000 for a Volvo could give me a car that's within 10 years, right? A whole lot different, bigger improvements and newer and no problems. And so I tried to explain to him, why would I spend $5,000 or $6,000 on a $2,000 car for a transmission replacement when there's a ton of those cars, makes and models still available with no problems that I could buy for $2,700, which he's now cost me in the parts he's put into this one, that if he had done his job right the first time would have been completely avoided. So I don't like dishonesty, so I'm upset. So that's my thing. I just wanted to post the video up there and share that because I'm going to have to go up against the main office and the board members of BCAA and making them stick to their word, because it's right on their website that if they don't find it the first time, then they'll find it and fix it for you, right? Free. It's on them. And they didn't find it and fix it the first time. And I was reassured multiple times that it was safe to drive the car on the highway back to the city and go about my business. And so the engine cooling fan blew, which is an expense that is on them for being wrong about not checking everything when they had it up on the hoist and had all the equipment and all the time in the world to get paid to find and fix the problems, because that's what I had requested. That was on my list of things to find and fix. It wasn't just changing a battery or checking the fluids. I didn't know that it was the battery. That's not what the instructions were. It isn't what I said. He had just assumed that after he had found the battery problem and changed it, that was all he needed to do, and that was the only request to the problem to be resolved, and not bother to continue to do his job to get paid to look into things further at a deeper level to find more of the other problems, which is what I was saying I was willing to pay him to do. So I had to make this video to get my thoughts out right, because I don't want to have a heart attack or stroke trying to talk to these people again. Maybe I'll even write my thoughts down. But yeah, be careful with who you go to with your cars today with mechanics. Wish you all luck. And hopefully things improve for me in the new year, and at some point I'll be driving again with a car where there's no more problems. So yeah, I'm going to take some time off to make some chocolate macaroons. I will make some short videos of the success of me enjoying my chocolate macaroons on my vacation time off of work, and I'm going to go back to finishing knitting gifts for people and putting together more care packages for people that are in need in my community that I just love helping, because it makes me feel so good. So peace out, everyone.